He said I was lucky to have him. Then the detective showed him the prenup. I'll never forget the way Daniel smiled at me across that mahogany table, like I was a child who'd just lost at checkers. "You're lucky I even married you, Natalie," he said, leaning back in the leather chair like he owned the room. His attorney smirked beside him, already counting his billable hours. I sat perfectly still, hands folded in my lap, while my lawyer remained silent. Daniel thought this was already over. He thought I'd come to beg. Then Detective Harris walked in, set a thick folder on the table, and everything changed. Daniel's face drained of color as the detective slid the folder toward his attorney. "I believe you'll want to review this before proceeding, counselor." The smirk vanished, and for the first time in 3 years, I smiled. If you're enjoying this story so far, please take a moment to like and hit the subscribe button to get notified of our new series. But to understand how we got here, to this moment where Daniel's arrogance finally cracked, I need to take you back. Back to when I was foolish enough to believe in fairy tales. 3 years ago, I met Daniel Prescott at a tech conference in Austin. I was presenting on cybersecurity solutions. He approached me after my panel, all charm and confidence, with that smile that made intelligent women forget their PhDs. "You're brilliant up there," he said. "And you made encryption sound sexy." I laughed. I was 32, successful in my field, but lonely. My friends kept saying I worked too much, that I'd never find someone if I didn't try. Daniel tried. Hard. Within 2 weeks, we were inseparable. He took me to restaurants I'd only read about, sent flowers to my office with notes that made my colleagues swoon. Everyone said the same thing. "You're so lucky, Natalie. He's perfect." I wanted to believe them, but there were small things, odd things. Like the day I used his bathroom and found a jewelry box hidden behind his shaving kit. Inside was a woman's bracelet, expensive, engraved with initials that weren't mine. When I asked about it, Daniel laughed it off. "That's from my ex. I keep meaning to throw it out." He kissed my forehead. "You're adorable when you're jealous." I wasn't jealous. I was cautious. But I ignored my instincts because everyone kept telling me how lucky I was. That was my first mistake. 6 months into our relationship, Daniel moved into my condo. "Just until my lease is up," he said. But his lease never seemed to end, and suddenly my home office became our space. My quiet mornings became his territory. I started noticing things. He'd go through my mail, comment on my spending, suggest I was too sensitive when I objected. "Babe, you're overthinking again," he'd say, pulling me close. This is what couples do. They share lives. But it felt less like sharing and more like invasion. Then came the night I overheard him on my balcony, voice low, almost conspiratorial. "She doesn't know anything yet. Trust me, I've got this under control." When I asked who he was talking to, he said it was about a business deal. "You wouldn't understand the details." That phrase became his favorite. "You wouldn't understand." I had a master's degree in computer science and ran security protocols for Fortune 500 companies. But suddenly, I wouldn't understand his phone calls, his unexplained absences, his mood swings. The gaslighting had begun, though I didn't recognize it yet. I just knew something felt wrong, like living in a house where all the doors had been moved 3 inches to the left. "We should combine finances," Daniel announced one Sunday morning, sliding a bank application across my kitchen counter. "Why?" I asked, sipping my coffee. "Because we're building a life together. Plus," he smiled that charming smile, "I'm better with numbers. Let me take some pressure off you." The irony stung. I earned $180,000 a year. Daniel's consulting business was vague at best, profitable never. But he was persuasive, persistent. "Don't you trust me?" That question, the weapon of manipulators everywhere. Against my better judgment, I agreed to a joint account. Just for household expenses, I told myself. Take a moment to like this story and subscribe for more. 2 months later, I received a credit alert. Someone had opened a personal loan for $35,000 in my name. When I confronted Daniel, he looked genuinely confused. "That's impossible. Must be identity theft. I'll handle it." He made calls, sounded official, told me it was being resolved. I wanted to believe him. But when I checked my credit report myself, I found something else. Daniel had been listed as an authorized user on my accounts for months. Before I'd agreed to anything. That's when the cold realization hit. He'd been planning this from the beginning. Daniel proposed on a beach in Malibu. Sunset, champagne, the whole production. The ring was stunning, a vintage emerald-cut diamond he claimed he'd had custom designed. "Only the best for you," he whispered. I cried. Said yes. Posted photos that got 400 likes. 3 months before the wedding, I took the ring to get resized. The jeweler examined it and frowned. "This is lovely estate jewelry," he said. 1940s, I'd guess. Excellent condition. Estate jewelry? Previously owned. You can see the original inscription inside. It's been partially buffed out, but it's there. My stomach dropped. Daniel had told me he'd spent months designing it. When I confronted him, he laughed. "Does it matter? It's the thought that counts, Natalie. Stop being materialistic." But it wasn't about the ring. It was about the lie. The ease with which he'd fabricated the entire story. That night, unable to sleep, I started searching. His name, his business, anything that felt off. What I found made my blood run cold. A life insurance policy recently opened, with me listed as the insured. Daniel was the sole beneficiary. For $2 million. I found the text message by accident. Daniel had left his iPad on the kitchen counter while he showered. It pinged, and I glanced at it reflexively. "She's clueless. Dinner tomorrow? Miss you." The sender, Mike. Except the profile picture wasn't a man. It was a woman, brunette, beautiful, laughing at something off camera. My hands shook as I scrolled up. Months of messages. Flirtations. Plans. Photos I couldn't unsee. When Daniel emerged, toweling his hair, I held up the iPad. "Who's Mike?" He didn't even flinch. Just sighed like I'd disappointed him. "Why are you going through my messages?" "Why is Mike, a woman telling you she misses you?" "That's Michelle. An old friend. You're being paranoid. These messages don't look like friendship. And this," he gestured at the iPad, "doesn't look like trust. What happened to you, Natalie? You used to be fun." Somehow, within 2 minutes, I was apologizing, explaining myself, defending my right to question obvious infidelity. That's what gaslighting does. It makes you doubt the evidence in your own hands. But I didn't delete those screenshots. I sent them to myself first, just in case. I suggested couples therapy. Daniel agreed immediately, which should have been my first clue. Dr. Patterson's office was all earth tones and empathy. Daniel performed brilliantly, vulnerable, self-aware, committed to growth. "I know I've been distant," he admitted, reaching for my hand. "Work stress. I took it out on Natalie. That's on me." Dr. Patterson nodded approvingly. By the end of the session, I felt guilty for doubting him. If you're finding this story gripping, please like and subscribe for the next chapter. That Friday, my colleague Andrea pulled me aside at a coffee shop. "Natalie, I need to tell you something." She looked uncomfortable. "Last Tuesday, I saw Daniel at the Westin downtown. He was with a woman. They were close." My throat tightened. What did she look like? Brunette, late 20s. They kissed before getting in the elevator. I thanked her, went home, and said nothing to Daniel. Instead, I opened my laptop and did what I do best. I started building a case file. Every suspicious transaction. Every unexplained absence. Every lie, cataloged and dated. If he wanted to play games, I'd play. But I'd play to win. I followed him. It felt pathetic, sitting in my car outside his client meeting. But I needed to know. At 8:47 p.m., Daniel emerged from the restaurant with her, the brunette from his messages. They walked to his car, laughing, his hand on her lower back. Then he kissed her. Not a friendly peck. A kiss that erased any remaining doubt. I sat there, hands gripping the steering wheel, and something inside me crystallized. Not heartbreak, that would come later. This was colder, clearer. I took photos. Noted the time, location, license plate. Then I drove home, made chamomile tea, and opened my laptop. By 2 a.m., I'd installed tracking software on every shared device, set up forwarding rules on his emails, and created an encrypted folder for documentation. When Daniel came home at 3:15 a.m., smelling like her perfume, I pretended to be asleep. But I wasn't sleeping. I was planning. The woman's name, I'd discover later, would devastate me more than the affair itself. Because I knew her, trusted her, called her my best friend. Erica Monroe had been my friend since college. My maid of honor. The person I'd called crying when my mother died. She was the woman in Daniel's car. I found their text thread while Daniel was in the shower. He'd gotten careless, or maybe he just didn't think I'd ever check. Erica, she asked about us today. I almost broke. Daniel, stay calm. She doesn't actually know anything. She's just suspicious by nature. Erica, I feel terrible. Daniel, you'll feel better when this is over and we're set. When what was over? What did set mean? I kept scrolling. Found messages from 8 months ago, before Daniel had even proposed to me. They'd been planning this, whatever this was. At my book club that Thursday, Erica hugged me like always. How's married life? I smiled. Perfect. And I watched her face, searching for guilt, for remorse. Found nothing but smooth, practiced deception. That's when I learned the most important lesson. The people closest to you can hurt you worst because they know exactly where to aim. Later that night, another friend, Tessa, pulled me aside. Everyone knew, she whispered, about Daniel and Erica. I'm sorry. We didn't know how to tell you. Everyone knew. Everyone but me. I thanked her, walked to my car with perfect composure, and only screamed once I was safely alone on the highway. Then I called my old college professor, who happened to be one of the best family lawyers in the state. Professor Catherine Mills had taught my ethics in technology seminar 12 years ago. Now she ran a prestigious family law practice from a glass tower downtown. Natalie Chun, she said, embracing me in her office. I wondered when you'd call. Saw your engagement announcement. Had a feeling about that one. I showed her everything. The texts, the insurance policy, the financial irregularities, the affair. Catherine's expression darkened as she reviewed the files. This is worse than infidelity. This is financial exploitation. Possibly fraud. Can I get out? Get out? Honey, you can annihilate him. But first tell me, did you sign a prenup? My stomach dropped. Yes. Daniel insisted. Said it was practical, that it protected both of us. Did you read it? I had it reviewed by a lawyer. Made some additions. Catherine's eyes lit up. What kind of additions? Clauses protecting my premarital assets. And I tried to remember the specific language. Something about fidelity and shared assets. Find that prenup. Now. I pulled it from my secure files that night while Daniel was at another business dinner. Reading it again with Catherine's voice in my head, I finally saw what I'd hidden in plain sight 3 years ago. Clause 7. In the event of proven infidelity by either party, all shared assets revert to the injured party's sole ownership. The offending party forfeits any claim to jointly acquired property or financial accounts. Daniel had signed it without reading past page 2, and I had proof of his infidelity documented for 8 months. Catherine called it the nuclear option. I called it justice. He never read it, Catherine said, reviewing the prenup again. Or his lawyer was incompetent. Either way, Clause 7 is ironclad. We sat in her office, my evidence spread across her conference table like pieces of a puzzle finally forming a picture. With the proof you have, texts, photos, financial records, he loses everything. The condo you bought together? Yours. The joint accounts? Yours. Even his stake in that shell company he tried to hide? We can argue you're entitled to half based on community property laws and his fraudulent concealment. What about the insurance policy? Catherine's smile was sharp. That's fraud. He took a policy on your life without proper disclosure of intent. Combined with his financial exploitation, we can argue intent to harm. I'm bringing in a criminal attorney. Loving this story? Please like and subscribe for what happens next. Over the next 2 weeks, I became someone I didn't recognize. Methodical. Patient.
Cold.
I tracked Daniel's movements, documented every expense from our joint accounts, dinners with Erica, gifts I'd never received, payments to his business that didn't exist. I recorded conversations where he casually mentioned our condo, the one I'd bought with my inheritance before we'd even met. And I waited, because Catherine taught me something Daniel never learned. Revenge is a dish best served with documentation, legal precedent, and a really good attorney. I created a system. Every morning, I'd download our account statements. Every evening, I'd cross-reference Daniel's location data with his claim schedule. Every weekend, I'd back everything up to 3 separate encrypted drives. It was exhausting, but it was also empowering. For the first time in months, I wasn't a victim. I was a strategist. Then I noticed something odd, $3,500 missing from my freelance consulting account. Money from a project Daniel didn't even know about. I checked the login history. Someone had accessed my account from Erica's apartment IP address. She had my passwords. Daniel had given them to her. They weren't just having an affair. They were robbing me. I called my bank's fraud department, initiated an investigation, and did something Daniel would never expect. I hired a private detective. Marcus Webb was recommended by Catherine. Former FBI, now specialized in domestic investigations. How far do you want me to dig? He asked during our first meeting. All the way down, I said. Every lie, every affair, every secret account, everything. Marcus smiled. I like working with women who know what they want. 3 weeks later, he delivered his first report.
And it was devastating.
Marcus's report was 47 pages long. Daniel hadn't just given Erica my passwords. He'd given her access to my email, my cloud storage, even my work credentials. She'd been monitoring my accounts for 7 months, stealing small amounts, never enough to trigger alerts, but enough to add up to $23,000. The money had been funneled into a joint account between her and Daniel, an account I'd never known existed. But there was more. Marcus had traced Daniel's consulting business to a shell company registered in Delaware. The company had no legitimate business activity, no employees, no office. What it did have, my name listed as CFO without my knowledge or consent. He's used your credentials to open business credit lines, Marcus explained. If this company defaults, you're legally liable.
This isn't just theft.
This is identity fraud and potential tax evasion. I forwarded everything to Catherine.
She forwarded it to the FBI.
Natalie, she said carefully, this is bigger than divorce. This is federal. If he's been filing false tax returns using your identity, he's looking at serious prison time. Good, I thought. Let him rot. But first, I wanted him to know exactly who he'd underestimated. Marcus's surveillance photos arrived via encrypted email. Daniel and Erica at a real estate office in Bellevue. Daniel signing papers. Erica laughing, pointing at something on a tablet. I had Marcus pull the property records. A luxury condo. Purchase price $850,000. Down payment $170,000. Exactly the amount missing from our joint investment account. The property was titled solely in Erica's name, but the financing trail led back to my money. They'd bought a love nest with funds stolen from me. The surveillance photos showed something else that made my blood boil. Erica wearing my grandmother's pearl necklace. The one I'd kept in my safe. The one Daniel had access to in case of emergency. This wasn't just betrayal. This was calculated cruelty. Marcus provided me with months of their movements. Romantic dinners charged to our joint credit cards. Weekend getaways to Vancouver, shopping sprees at Nordstrom where Erica modeled clothes I'd unknowingly purchased. They're not careful, Marcus noted. They think you're oblivious. I smiled.
Let them think that.
Because while they were playing house with my money, I was building a case that would destroy them both. The next phase, giving them enough rope to hang themselves. Catherine called me at 6 a.m. on a Tuesday. Natalie, we found something. Something big. The shell company Daniel had created, the one with my forged signature, had filed federal tax returns claiming losses of $340,000. Losses that generated tax credits. Credits Daniel had pocketed. He's been filing fraudulent returns for 2 years, Catherine said. Using your stolen identity. The IRS is very interested. How interested? Federal investigation interested. Wire fraud, tax fraud, identity theft. We're talking 15 to 20 years if convicted. My hand trembled holding the phone. This man had proposed to me, promised to cherish me, and all along, he'd been using me as a front for federal crimes. There's more, Catherine continued. We found evidence he did this before. To his previous fiancée. She settled quietly, but our investigator found the sealed case. Daniel has a pattern. Please like and subscribe to see how this all unfolds. I was wife number 2 in Daniel's con.
A mark.
A resource to be exploited and discarded. The rage I'd been suppressing for months crystallized into something harder. Something unbreakable. What's our next move? We spring the trap. Serve him divorce papers, but in a very public way. I want witnesses. I want his reaction documented. Because when this goes to trial, and it will, we want a jury to see exactly who he is. I agreed. But first I wanted one more thing. I wanted Daniel to confess. I chose brunch at Canlis, Daniel's favorite restaurant, where he'd proposed to me 2 years earlier. I invited Erica too. Told them I wanted to clear the air and move forward as adults. They came dressed to impress, smelling of confidence and my perfume. We ordered mimosas, made small talk, played the role of civilized adults. Then my lawyer walked in. Catherine approached our table, smiled politely, and handed Daniel an envelope. Daniel Prescott, you've been served. His face went blank. Erica's mimosa glass slipped, spilling champagne across the white tablecloth. Daniel opened the envelope, scanned the first page, and laughed. Actually laughed. A divorce? Natalie, sweetheart, you won't get a dime. The prenup is airtight. I sipped my water calmly. You should read Clause 7. He flipped pages, found it, and his laughter died. This can't be. Ironclad, Catherine confirmed. Your infidelity with Ms. Monroe here voids your claim to all shared assets. Every joint account, every property acquired during marriage, every investment, all reverts to my client. Erica's voice was small. Daniel, what is she talking about? And here's the interesting part. I continued, my voice steady as stone. I'm not here to take half, Daniel. I'm here to take everything that's mine, which legally is everything. His eyes met mine, and for the first time, I saw fear. You planned this. No, I said. You did. I just documented it. Catherine had one more strategy. Get Daniel to confess on tape. It's legal in Washington, she explained. Single-party consent. If you're part of the conversation, you can record it. So I orchestrated one final dinner. Just Daniel and me. A reconciliation attempt. I wore the dress he loved, cooked his favorite meal, played the role of confused, heartbroken wife. And I recorded everything. I just don't understand why you did it, I said, voice breaking perfectly. Was I not enough? Daniel, emboldened by wine and ego, couldn't help himself. Natalie, you were always enough. That's the problem. You were enough money, enough credentials, enough access. But you were never exciting. Erica understands me. So you stole from me because I was boring? Borrowed, he corrected. I borrowed from our accounts to invest in our future. Our future? Or the condo you bought for Erica? He paused, realized he'd admitted it, then shrugged. That property is an investment. When we sell it, you'll get your share. Will I get my share of the shell company too? The one where you forged my signature? His face darkened. That was necessary. For tax purposes. Tax fraud, you mean? Creative accounting, he snapped. Something you'd never understand because you're too rigid. Too by the book. I smiled. You're right. I am by the book. Which is why everything you just admitted is being recorded and will be submitted to both the divorce court and the FBI. The color drained from his face. I stood, picked up my phone from where it had been recording, and forwarded the file to Catherine. Dinner's over, Daniel. Enjoy your last night in our home. Tomorrow, the locks are changed. Catherine moved with surgical precision. First, she released the confession tape to the FBI. Within 48 hours, federal agents raided Daniel's office and seized his computers. Then she filed motions freezing all joint assets, including the Bellevue condo Daniel had purchased for Erica. Daniel's investors, whom he'd scammed with promises of tech partnerships that didn't exist, began filing lawsuits. His consulting business was revealed as a house of cards built on lies and my stolen identity. Within a week, Daniel had lost everything: his business, his reputation, his freedom. If you're enjoying this justice, please like and subscribe for more. Erica tried to flee. Packed bags, booked a flight to Toronto using a credit card funded by my money. Catherine had the accounts frozen. Erica was stopped at the airport, found with $47,000 in cash withdrawn from our joint account the night before. She was arrested for wire fraud and conspiracy. In custody, facing 10 years in federal prison, Erica did what all cowards do. She flipped. Gave Catherine everything: emails, bank records, text messages planning their scheme. Proof that Daniel had targeted me specifically after researching my financial background. He found you on LinkedIn. Erica confessed in her deposition. Saw you were successful, single, and had recently inherited money from your mother. He planned the whole thing. Every coffee shop meeting, every romantic gesture, every promise. All calculated, all fake. Someone leaked the story to a tech blogger who'd been following startup fraud. The headline: Tech consultant exposed. Daniel Prescott's marriage con scheme bilked wife of $500,000. The article detailed everything: the fake company, the forged documents, the affair, the property fraud. Within hours, it had gone viral. Daniel's face was everywhere, attached to words like con artist, fraud, and predator. His LinkedIn disappeared. His website went dark. Former clients issued statements distancing themselves. One woman reached out to me privately. He did this to me 5 years ago. I was too ashamed to report it. Thank you for being brave. Then another. And another. Daniel had run this con 3 times before me.
I was just the first one who'd fought back.
The tech community rallied around me. Job offers poured in. Speaking invitations. Requests to tell my story. But the sweetest moment came when Daniel's biggest investor, a venture capitalist who'd sunk $2 million into the fake shell company, sued him personally for fraud. Daniel's attorney called Catherine, begging for a settlement. Tell him, I said, that I'm not interested in his money. I want him in prison. Catherine delivered the message, added her own flourish. And my client wants you to know she was never lucky to have you. You were lucky. She had limits. Erica's attorney negotiated a plea deal, full cooperation in exchange for reduced charges. She gave them everything. Emails from Daniel detailing how he'd researched my background, planned our accidental meeting at that tech conference, and cultivated our relationship specifically to access my money. Texts where he'd coached Erica on how to stay close to me. She trusts you.
Keep her talking.
I need to know about her accounts. Bank records showing that Daniel had scammed Erica too, promised her half of my money, then planned to abandon her once the fraud was complete. He used both of us, Erica said during her deposition, crying. I thought he loved me, but I was just another tool. I felt nothing watching her break down. She'd made her choices. Catherine presented everything to the federal prosecutor, a pattern of fraud spanning 6 years. For victims and over $2 million in stolen assets. The prosecutor was thrilled. This is a career-making case. Thank you, Ms. Chen. Meanwhile, Daniel's company was raided. His computers seized. His bank accounts frozen. He'd lost everything: money, freedom, reputation. And soon, he'd lose the one thing he valued most, his liberty. The trial date was set for 3 months out. But first, we had to handle the divorce hearing. Daniel walked into court like he still had power. Expensive suit, polished shoes, that practiced smile. His attorney had clearly told him to project confidence. But I saw the cracks, the tremor in his hands, the way his eyes kept darting to Catherine. The judge reviewed the prenup, the evidence of infidelity, the financial fraud. Mr. Prescott, she said, I've been on the bench for 23 years. This is among the most egregious cases of marital exploitation I've encountered. Daniel's attorney tried to object, but the judge silenced him. Clause 7 is clear.
Yes.
Chun has provided irrefutable evidence of your infidelity and financial misconduct. All shared assets revert to her sole ownership. Your Honor, Daniel's attorney began, my client disputes the authenticity of. The judge held up her hand. Detective Harris approached the bench with another file. Your Honor, this is security footage from the defendant's office building showing him and Ms. Monroe entering his private office on 17 separate occasions. Time-stamped, cross-referenced with Ms. Chen's evidence. The judge reviewed it, looked at Daniel with something close to disgust. Mr. Prescott, you don't have a leg to stand on. All shared assets are awarded to Ms. Chen. Additionally, you are ordered to pay her legal fees and reimburse her for all stolen funds. You'll get nothing, Daniel. Not the condo, not the accounts, not even the furniture you picked out. Everything is hers. Daniel finally broke. She can't do this. I built that company. The company that doesn't exist? The judge raised an eyebrow. The one you're currently under federal investigation for? That company.
He had no answer.
Divorce granted. Miss Chun, you're free. I walked out of that courtroom and breathed deeply for the first time in 3 years. Catherine had arranged one final meeting before the criminal trial, a mediation session where Daniel could say his piece. I didn't have to attend,
But I wanted to. Needed to.
we met in a conference room downtown. Daniel looked destroyed, wrinkled clothes, unshaven, hollow-eyed. His attorney spoke first. My client would like to express remorse and explore the possibility of Ms. Chun withdrawing her criminal complaint. I can't withdraw a federal investigation, I said calmly. But you could choose not to testify. You could say the marriage simply didn't work out. I looked at Daniel, really looked at him. Saw the manipulation even now, the calculation behind the desperate act.
No.
Ms. Chun, please, his attorney began. Your client researched me like a mark. He planned our meeting. He fabricated a romance to steal my identity and my money. He committed federal crimes using my name. And when I discovered the truth, he tried to gaslight me into thinking I was paranoid. I stood. I'm not just testifying. I'm making sure everyone knows exactly who Daniel Prescott is. Daniel finally spoke, his voice cracking. Can we talk privately? Just for 5 minutes. Against Catherine's advice, I agreed. Daniel and I stood alone in the conference room. He looked at me with red-rimmed eyes.
I'm sorry, Natalie.
I was weak.
Lost.
I made terrible mistakes. You didn't make mistakes. You executed a plan. I loved you. You loved my bank account. He flinched. Maybe at first. But things changed. You changed me. I changed nothing. You've been running this con for years. I was just the one who fought back. Please. He stepped closer. I'll go to prison. My life is over. Can't you show mercy? I thought about the nights I'd cried myself to sleep wondering what I'd done wrong. The therapy sessions where I questioned my own sanity. The moment I discovered my best friend was sleeping with my husband. You told me I was lucky to have you, I said quietly. Remember? In that lawyer's office, when you thought you'd won. He nodded miserably. Turns out, Daniel, I was never lucky to have you. You were lucky I had limits. Lucky I believe in justice. Because if I didn't, I'd want you to suffer the way you made me suffer. But I do believe in justice. Which means you get exactly what you deserve, the legal consequences of your crimes. I walked to the door.
Paused.
Oh, and Daniel? That life insurance policy you took out on me? The one for $2 million? The FBI is very interested in that, especially combined with everything else. They're calling it potential intent. His face went white. Enjoy prison. 6 months later, Daniel was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison for wire fraud, identity theft, and tax evasion. Erica got 3 years and 5 years probation. I got my life back. Please like and subscribe for the final chapter. The story made national news. I was invited to speak at conferences about financial fraud and domestic abuse. I launched a podcast called Clause 7, helping other women recognize and escape financial exploitation. My first guest was Amanda Rodriguez, one of Daniel's previous victims. She'd been too ashamed to come forward until she saw my story. "You gave me courage," she said during our interview. "You showed me that fighting back isn't vindictive, it's justice." The podcast took off. Within 6 months, we'd reached 3 million downloads. I started consulting for law firms on digital evidence collection in domestic fraud cases. My tech background combined with my personal experience made me uniquely qualified. The money from the divorce settlement? I donated half to organizations supporting domestic abuse survivors. Used the other half to build something Daniel could never touch, my own security consulting firm. I was thriving, laughing,
Free.
and sometimes I drive past the courthouse where the judge had granted my divorce and think about Clause 7, the tiny piece of legal protection I'd insisted on 3 years ago. Last Tuesday, I was having coffee downtown when I saw him. Daniel out on work release, wearing an orange vest, picking up litter on Pine Street. Our eyes met across the intersection. He looked away first. I stood there for a moment, holding my coffee, watching him shuffle along with his trash bag and picker. He looked smaller somehow, diminished. The confidence that had once filled rooms now compressed into the hunched shoulders of a man who'd lost everything. I could have walked away. Should have, probably. But something made me cross the street. "Hello, Daniel." He froze. Looked around as if checking for escape routes. "Natalie, how's the community service treating you?"
His jaw tightened.
"It's what I deserve. That's what everyone keeps telling me." They're right. We stood in silence. A businessman rushed past us, too absorbed in his phone to notice the tableau we created. The successful woman in designer clothes and the convicted felon in his vest. "I saw your podcast," Daniel said finally. "Episode 12, where you talked about the insurance policy. And you said you felt sorry for me." He looked confused. "Why?" "Because you had everything you needed to be successful: intelligence, charm, work ethic. But instead of building something real, you chose to steal from people who cared about you. That's not just criminal. It's tragic." His eyes filled with tears. "I know. I see it now. Every day in there, I see it." "Good," I said, not unkindly. "Maybe in 12 years, you'll actually mean it." I started to walk away, then paused. Turned back. "You told me once that I was lucky to have you. Do you remember?" He nodded miserably. "I want you to know something, Daniel. I was lucky. Lucky that you showed me who you were before you destroyed me completely. Lucky that I had the resources and the courage to fight back. Lucky that Clause 7 existed." I took a step closer, lowering my voice so only he could hear. "But you? You were lucky I believed in the justice system. Because if I decided to handle this my way, using every tech skill I have to make your life a living hell, prison would have been a mercy." His face paled. "Enjoy your litter duty, Daniel. And every time you bend down to pick up someone else's trash, remember, you threw away the best thing that ever happened to you." I walked away without looking back. That night, I recorded the final episode of Clause 7's first season. People often ask me if I regret loving Daniel. I said into the microphone. If I wish I'd seen the signs earlier, protected myself sooner, walked away at the first red flag. The truth is, no. I don't regret it. Because that experience taught me the most valuable lesson of my life. Never let anyone make you feel lucky to be loved. Real love doesn't require luck. It requires respect, honesty, and equity. Daniel taught me to trust my instincts, to document everything, and to never be ashamed of protecting myself. He taught me that being underestimated is sometimes the best advantage you can have. He thought I was weak because I was kind, stupid because I was trusting, easy prey because I wanted to believe in the fairy tale. But here's what he never understood. The same intelligence that built my career is the same intelligence that destroyed his. The same attention to detail that made me good at my job is what made me meticulous in gathering evidence. The same empathy that made me love deeply is what made me fight hard for others in similar situations. So to everyone listening who's wondering if they're crazy, if they're paranoid, if they're overreacting, trust yourself. Document everything. And remember, Clause 7 isn't just about prenups. It's about building protections into every area of your life. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's living so well that your betrayer becomes a footnote in your success story. I paused, smiled at the memory of Daniel's face on that street corner. This is Natalie Chun, signing off Season 1 of Clause 7.
Stay safe out there.
And always read the fine print. 3 years later, I'm sitting in my corner office on the 23rd floor, overlooking Elliott Bay. My security consulting firm now has 40 employees across 3 cities. The podcast has been optioned for a documentary series. And last month, I testified before Congress about financial fraud in intimate partner relationships. My legislation, informally known as Natalie's Law, requires insurance companies to notify insured parties when policies are taken out on their lives. It's saved 3 lives so far that we know of. My phone buzzes with a text from Catherine. Guess who just got denied parole? Your favorite former husband. Another 5 years minimum. I don't feel joy at the news. Just a quiet satisfaction that the system worked. There's a knock on my door. My assistant pokes her head in. Ms. Chun, your 3 p.m. is here. The woman from the email? Send her in. A young woman enters, nervous, clutching a folder. She's maybe 25, dressed professionally but clearly shaken. Ms. Chun, I'm Sophie Martinez. I think I'm being conned, just like you were. I found her podcast, and she starts crying. I hand her tissues, gesture for her to sit. Tell me everything, Sophie, from the beginning. As she talks about her charming boyfriend, the strange financial requests, the insurance policies she discovered, I take notes with the same precision I once used to document Daniel's crimes. If you've made it this far, thank you for following Natalie's journey. Please like and subscribe for more stories of justice and empowerment. Sophie, I say when she finishes, you did the right thing coming here. Now, let me show you how to protect yourself. I pull out a legal pad and start writing, document everything. Trust your instincts. Build your Clause 7. Because Daniel taught me something valuable, even if he didn't mean to. The best way to heal from betrayal isn't just surviving it. It's making sure no one else has to. Sometimes I still drive past that downtown corner where I saw Daniel picking up litter. Not because I miss him, not because I'm checking on him, but because it reminds me of something important. Foundations matter. Daniel thought he was building his future on my money, but really, he was just borrowing time until the truth caught up with him. I built my future on something he could never steal. My integrity, my intelligence, and my refusal to be anyone's stepping stone.